Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in Game 2 in a series between Select and Dimaga here in the Delta Quadrant. Select spawning as the blue Terran player on the bottom left hand side of the map, what I'll call the 7 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Dimaga spawned as the red Zerg player over here on the top right hand side of the map as the red Zerg. So it's going to be Zerg versus Terran here on Delta Quadrant. Delta Quadrant, one of my favorite maps after the game was released just because of the sheer number of expansions on this map. Normally, with the number of expansions on this map, you would think that this map really favors Zerg players. However, because of the number of the expansions of the map and how small this map is and the number of ledges, it also plays well to Terran play. And a Terran player can easily try to grab this low ground expansion and then slowly expand into these areas with destructible debris. Over half of the expansions on this map have destructible rocks. So there is destructible rocks at the low ground expansion on every single base right here, and over here as well. And there's also destructible rocks at these gold yield mineral locations. As we've seen before, Protoss players normally like to try to use Void Rays on this map just because of the destructible rocks, but obviously this is not there are no Protoss players in this matchup so far. So taking a look at the production, we do see a Rax now coming in. So a standard Rax coming in so far from Select, as opposed to any early Rax play that I've seen him do against Zerg. Meanwhile, Dimaga now going for the standard spawning pool as well. I would not expect him to go for an early hatchery just because of how exposed this natural expansion is. He may try to take down these destructible rocks with early Zerglings or early Roaches and try to set up an expansion here. However, because of this high ledge in this location, Zerg players have to be very, very wary of any Siege Tank or even Reaper play. One Overlord now sitting out in the front of the base, one Overlord now moving out into this direction, so Dimaga will quickly be able to find that Select has not spawned over here at the 5 o'clock location, and now by process of elimination, Dimaga knows exactly where Select is. Now, looking at the bases so far, a command center now being upgraded naturally to an orbital command, Marines being trained, and this game is going to get underway. Strategy-wise, Mutalisk play does open up fairly well just because of the amount of open space that these Mutalisks can fly. Mutalisks can fly into this location or into this location and not have to worry about Marines. The Marines or Thors, the main counters towards Mutalisk. Vikings can try to hunt them down. However, Vikings with that slow attack speed really have to utilize their range and be microed very much. Mutalisks are able to just charge head in and try to deal damage with their splash attack and their glaive worms. Now moving around, we do see some Zerglings going after this one SCV. SCV taking some damage there, already down to 10 hit points, and will try to pull back. We do see an early hatchery, however, from Dimaga. So Dimaga going against my earlier thought and went for a 16 hatchery here. What I expect to happen then is some drones to be transferred, perhaps even a queen to be transferred over, and then some early spine crawlers. Otherwise, this expansion will get heavily harassed. Two ways of harassment. I've seen Zerg or Terran players use Reapers and then use this ledge against their opponent as Zerglings try to swarm in over here. Normally, Hellions are also a good option as well, but we may see spine crawlers perhaps right here and right here as well, trying to protect from any of those Hellions getting into the back of those minerals. Taking a look into Select space, Select now getting the Infernal Pre-Igniter and getting Hellions as well. So Select now going into Hellion harassment. Hellions love to kill drones. A drone barbecue is one of their favorite things to, try to excite Terran players. As this one Overlord now making its way across the map, will be able to fly in and get some site information. However, Select needs to get some additional supply depots. Currently supply locked. There we go. Now unsupply locked. Getting that siege tank and now going for siege tech. So he canceled his Infernal Pre-Igniter research and went for siege tanks instead. I'm a little curious about this. Perhaps he knew about these spine crawlers that will be laid down in just a moment, but I can't suspect that he did. Perhaps he's going for the command center instead, and with command center, he wants to be able to try to take down these destructible debris first, and siege tanks and tanks are obviously better at that job than trying to do it with Hellion. So one Hellion now moving out. This Hellion needs to be microed absolutely perfect in order to fight back. However, it does not look like it will be able to. And now, do we see a Roach Warren is the key question. We do already have that Roach Warren with Roaches in play. So Dimaga, naturally thinking that there was going to be Hellions being trained up, went for Roaches. However, now that Siege Tanks and Marauders, most likely, no, Siege Tanks and Marines now being trained, these Siege Tanks will be able to deal a lot of damage towards those Roaches. Another Hellion now being trained up as well. So currently we have Select going for siege tech, only producing one siege tank. And as this siege tank now moves over here, will not go into siege mode and try to take down these destructible rocks. One important thing to note is the attack rate on this 90mm cannon means that the DPS is actually faster against armored units as long as you do not take into consideration splash damage. The siege tank with that additional splash damage is able to hit 2 or 3 units at the same time at full damage, and that's the reason why you want to use a siege tank in siege mode. However, if you're just taking down buildings and those buildings are static and they do not fight back like cannons or spine crawlers, it is normally better to use them in that Crucio tank mode. Meanwhile, back over here, we now see 2 Hellions now trying to move out. No Infernal Pre-Igniter research, and now an armory being laid down. So it is going to be some Thors in just a moment. I do not see a Spire yet, as we are now going into Banelings. So Banelings now in the works instead of... Baneling nest instead of any Spire tech. So a little curious about that. So Dimaga now morphing Banelings in instead, and now that should be a very, very interesting opening, as Select now has 2 siege tanks here. Now we'll try to establish this particular expansion. One Overlord will quickly be able to fly into this position in just a moment, sees that a mule has been called down, and now knows that there is an expansion down over here. So with Select taking this expansion, we see Zerglings now trying to peck away. What a waste of a Baneling there. A Baneling suiciding himself for those destructible rocks when a Zergling could have taken it down without having to sacrifice his life. There is now one Overseer in this position as well. This Overseer does have an additional movement speed compared to an Overlord, and however, we are not getting the additional movement speed here. We are getting a 3rd Queen, however, so Dimaga now going into 3 Queen play, and also continuing to just try to get more and more spawn larvae. Dimaga now just power droning will be able to get a lot of drones in just a second. You can take a look at the production tab for additional drones. So we will go from 42 harvesters to 46 harvesters in just a second, as now Select calling down mules. So Select currently getting that economic boost up to 36 harvesters compared to 46, because of those mules now able to mine at almost 2,000 minerals a minute. However, the cooldown, the life on these mules will quickly fall down in just a moment, as these Hellions now trying to deal some damage against these Zerglings. Zerglings trying to get a good surround on those Hellions. However, Hellions able to keep some distance between them and now able to run up that ramp, and that would be a very, very dangerous choke point, especially with a siege tank. That siege tank does deal 35 splash damage against those Zerglings, and those Zerglings, because of their low hit points and no armor, would have been one-shotted by that siege tank. Currently 54 harvesters for Dimaga, Select sitting at 39, and now a 3rd hatchery being laid down by Dimaga. So Dimaga continuing the power drone, trying to get a stronger and stronger economy going. Will he be able to? Taking a look at the drone production, 2 drones still being produced. Harvester count, we are now at 52 compared to 41. And the hooks now being researched for those Banelings, so those Banelings will be able to move out, be on a roll, and perhaps try to blow up this front door location. However, those siege tanks will be able to blast away on those Banelings before they're able to get within that splash radius. Hellions once again on the move. They have been repaired by a couple SCVs, and now another command center by Select. So Select will be able to lift off this command center and move it into this position here. So Hellions now trying to fight back against a group of Zerglings. Hellions still do not have that Infernal Pre-Igniter research. A little surprised by that. I think if he had the Infernal Pre-Igniter research, those units would have a much more difficult time. And now nicely done by an Overseer adding 40 units of build time towards this one barracks and this one reactor here. So these 2 Marines are going to be stuck in limbo for quite some time before this Contaminate is going to be completed. Meanwhile, we have more siege tanks still being produced. We are getting the stim pack research and the level 1 weapons research as well. We should be seeing some Marines now being trained up. And are we going to get some medevacs? I do not see any medevacs yet, as we now see additional barracks being thrown down. I do not see a starport. We do see a planetary fortress now being upgraded with a bunker in position. So Select confined to just moving out very, very slowly. This is turning into a game of Sim StarCraft, where both sides do not want to engage just quite yet. The Zerg player, Dimaga, now able to mine out of this high yield, or will be able to mine out of this high yield mineral location in just a moment, as a hatchery now coming into position. Harvester and resource wise, 59 harvesters versus 53. However, Select with that orbital command will be able to continue to call down more and more mules if he decides to. This planetary fortress also will be able to deal a lot of damage, 40 damage per attack with a slight splash radius. Really, really good at dealing against Zerglings. We do see one hatchery over here, and we are upgrading the ventral sacs. So the ventral sacs now being researched along with the carapace. So that means that those overlords and those overseers will be able to move out much more quickly. Overlords now with a movement speed of 1.88. Meanwhile, overseers, and there is one overseer here with a movement speed of 2.75, moving out, I believe, as fast as an upgraded zealot. So yeah, an upgraded zealot speed, and not while they're in charge, just when charge is researched. So now we have some siege tanks on this low ground. Select really just carefully moving out very, very slowly, continuing to build more and more reactors. We do see a starport now, so that starport will be double training medevacs in just a moment as Select tries to get more and more of an army going. We do see Thor's, I have not ever seen a pro player use the 250mm strike cannon yet after the beta, so we'll see if these are going to be used, and probably not. And if I'm wrong, then yeah, Select opening up a new strategy that I have yet to see. We do have one overlord in this position, so this one overlord still gaining sight on top of these two locations here. Once again, we now see more infestors now being massed up, more zerglings, and perhaps some banelings as well. We currently have 14 or 15 13 banelings here, and now going into those overlords. So these overlords may be trying to do a bombing run in just a moment. So these overlords, as they do a bombing run, will be able to get a lot of kills off. The key question is, where is that damage going to be? One overlord now here, perhaps if they split the banelings into two separate ventral sacs, will be able to drop them all and deal damage towards all of these SCVs. SCVs not suspecting a thing. So now in comes the overlord, now trying to drop those banelings. Banelings now dropping into that position and really dealing so much damage into that location here. And now you can take a look at the harvester count, now down to 69. So it looked as though Select did have an advantage. And now the center of the map now just completely getting run over here. More bombing run coming in once again as these banelings dropping on top of those siege tanks. And now very, very nicely done by Dimaga. Dimaga just simply rolling over with this army. Really nicely done army-wise. We now sit at 1,000 for Select versus 2275. Zerglings now trying to take down their way, try to take down this one bunker here. This planetary fortress should be able to rack up those kills as another fungal growth comes in on Select, and Select is going to have a very difficult time trying to push back with this army. However, because of this planetary fortress, he's unable to continue with that pressure. Dimaga only has a couple overlords in this position. I thought the rest of this red were perhaps actually units, but no. And now you see that Dimaga does not have much of an army either. Harvester-wise, 67 compared to 68. Dimaga, however, able to mine out more with those mules in this location here. Need to continue to train up more and more SCVs, and now getting the level 2 weapons upgrade on these siege tanks. Also, these SCVs need to continue to repair and try to repair all of these medevacs. Marines getting saved out of that location here, and now Dimaga will try to continue to pressure with all of these banelings. Army-wise, 2,400 versus 1,900. And will these roaches, with their only level 1 armor upgrade, be able to really do anything else? We are now getting Ultralisk as well. So Ultralisk with that plating and now that level 2 carapace armor will have, I believe, 4 or 5 armor when trying to engage against the Terran player. These Marines with those level 2 weapons upgrade will be able to deal, 3 or 4 damage per attack depending on the actual armor. Dimaga now getting another hatchery at the starting location over here at the 10 o'clock position. However, that will quickly get taken down by Select. Select, however, not wanting to do anything there. Perhaps is going to try to take down this particular expansion that does in fact have some drones. So now with this medevac and level 2 weapons upgrade, will Select be able to do anything about that particular location? He does see creep here. Roaches, however, already are in position as they were spotted, and Select may be trying to come in and attack a fortified position as these Marines now drop out of the sky. These banelings and roaches and Zerglings quickly coming in and try to deal some damage. There we go, able to pick them up and try to move out once again, perhaps to try to drop into this location. However, the Ultralisk Cavern will be able to finish off that armor upgrade in just a second, already down to 105. One Queen now in position as these Marines now dropping out of the sky to deal damage here. A nice fungal growth hitting all of those units, and now Infested Terran coming out. Infested Terrans may be able to deal some damage. However, that Ultralisk Cavern down to 2 hit points, and there it goes. However, the rest of that army has been taken down. Was he able to produce Ultralisk in time? Yes. Able to get a couple of those Ultralisks, also able to take down those 2 medevacs, and now rebuilding that Ultralisk Cavern once again. So the Ultralisk Cavern takes 65 units of time Funny how it takes longer to build an Ultralisk than to build the Ultralisk Cavern. Back over here, we do have an Overseer with still plenty of energy, and now another Overlord in this position being shooed off by one Marine. We now see a hatchery that has been completed, another hatchery now training up more and more Queens out of this location, and now mass Roaches moving out. Army-wise, I'm kind of surprised that the Roaches do not have the weapons upgrade. So currently sitting on Roach upgrades, and that is it. Are we going to be able to deal any damage towards those medevacs? The medevacs are in the air. Banelings, Roaches, and Ultralisks now on the ground. Plenty of Siege Tanks on the ground with that level 1 weapons upgrade. And now we see 3-0 upgrades currently underway for Select. So Select now also building another command center. Where is that command center being built? I can find it. No, I cannot. Okay, I thought I saw a command center being built. Yes, I'm trying to look for a square, but I don't see where that command center is being built. Trust me, it's there, even though I can't find it. Once again, Marauder is now trying to deal with this unit over here. We do see some Spine Crawlers now coming into position, and now this hatchery nearing, this hatchery just going to be able to just get taken down here. So 4 Marauders with Stim able to deal damage, and down goes this hatchery. Those Broodlings now trying to come out. Those Banelings and Ultras getting there a day late and $1 short. So we may get another hatchery down here in just a moment. That's what we need to see. Otherwise, all of these Spine Crawlers will be taking damage. We do have more medevacs once again on the move. However, these Marauders are going to have a very, very bad day if these Ultralisks, come into position once again. Out moves this one command center, so the command center was being put down here, and now as these destructible rocks are going to be taken down, Select will lose this. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Select and Dimaga here on the Delta Quadrant.